All right, so here we are again, and now we're into the serious episode. So far, episodes 1 and 0, they've just been, kind of introducing you to like tools and how to do things. Now that you know how to do all that, you're ready to start vectoring. So first things first, grab a frame, like I taught you how to in episode 1, and let's get started. Now you already know about the color guides from Kefka Floyd over here. Here's the actual webpage. I think I forgot to show you the webpage. Grab a PDF you want, open it up in Photoshop, and you're ready to go. So, let's say I've got this frame here. I've already vectored this. Some of you might recognize this as the Candyman Scootaloo thing I did before. Actually, let's go back. Okay, so sorry about that. We'll save the Scootaloo thing for later. Right now, I want to tell you how to start vectoring. How you should have your tool set up. I forgot to put this in episode 1. Episode 1. I didn't put this in. Yeah, I just said that. All right. So first, you want to be on your pen tool. Pen tool should be set up to shape layers, not paths. I'll tell you why not paths. All right. You've probably seen on DeviantArt. I'm not going to name who because they're probably going to get mad at me if I did. Actually, a lot of people on DeviantArt have tutorials up for vectoring. It's like this really long journal entry, and it says like how I do this and this and this. I'm telling you how I do my way. Well, these people, they tell you make a path and make, shapes. I don't know. Make an ear using paths. Like that, I don't know. They say make an ear using paths and then fill it by, all right, there we go. There's our ear. There's our ear. It's very bad. I'm sorry. Then they say fill it by making a new layer by pressing the new layer button, going back, having your color selected over in the foreground. We got that. Yeah. And then pressing the fill button down here. Now, oops, wrong way. I have it set to subtract. I'm sorry. Now, how come I don't want you to do this? I'll tell you why. Because one, you have all your layers all set up, right? Even if they're all grouped and everything, and you got the paths. If you go to image size, you change it to 5,000 or something. Check this out. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Okay, I'll select the path. Watch this. If I image size to like 5,000 pixels, you'll notice this. It's not anti-alias. It is anti-aliased. It's anti-aliased because Photoshop has turned it into a rasterized layer. So if you use the paths, you get rasterized layers. If you use the shape tool, however, and do the exact same thing, if I make an ear, and you'll notice the shape tool will show you results instantly. You don't have to guess and check like using the paths. Okay, this is going to be a really bad ear. I'm very sorry. All right, so you got your ear here, rear. Okay. And you're probably wondering, what the hell is he doing? I will tell you in a few moments. All right, so this is also a terrible ear. But you'll see over here, it's got the path is bound to the fill layer. So if I, no, oops. All right, well, let me crop this here. All right, if I increase the image size to 5,000 pixels, it'll be exactly the same. Now, even over here, this is all blurry. I don't know if you can see it, but it's blurry. This one over here, nice and clean. Nice clean edges, not clean edges. It's because it's rasterized and this one's vectored. Also, nice thing about this is you can import this. You can file, save as, come up with this over here. Go down to Photoshop EPS. That is the Photoshop vector format. It's almost like the SVG, except for Photoshop. I think other programs can read it as well, I think. That'll save your paths. Not your paths. They are paths. In a way, they are paths, but they're bound to the fill layer over here. So if you change the image size, it'll change the size of the overall path as well. It's basically, I call it a mask to the fill layer. It only shows a certain, because if I disable this, even Photoshop calls it a mask, then you get this. But if I enable it, it masks everything not inside the path. Meanwhile, this over here is just something I drew with a path, and now it's blurry. So you don't want to use, and this is just a big lesson on why not to use paths like they say in DeviantArt, and why you want to use the shape tool, because that's real vectoring. Paths, that's not real vectoring. That's fake vectoring. You don't want to do fake vectoring because you come up with images you can't resize and put in wallpapers and nice things. You come up with rasterized images that you have to change every time. Also, another thing I noticed is sometimes I was watching someone's live stream today, and they know who they are. So you have a nice shape here, but you don't want this. You want this to be straight. So what they do is they go to the convert point tool because they think that's the only way to go, and they click on each Bezier curve. And they try to sort everything out. Try to match the trace. Pretend there's a trace behind this, and I'm trying to trace it. Now look at that. You've got pointy corners all over the place. And you're like, well, Orange, maybe they want a pointy corners. Let me show you what happens if you use this technique of the pen tool and then converting all the Bezier curves with the convert point tool. Like that. You get something that looks, well, I've got the screen cap here. It looks something like this. I don't know if you can see it, but this is pretty bad. Let's take a look. First off, you'll notice the eye. Look at the eye. This is something I made, by the way, so you can criticize it all you want. I made it just for this purpose. Look at these eyelashes. Look how pointy that is. I mean, if you're trying to follow a trace, and look how many lines they use. Didn't I say use as few anchor points as possible? Yes, I did. If you watched episode 1, I believe I did say that. If I didn't, then I'm being weird. You can ignore me. Because this is the second take I'm doing over episode 2. I already did episode 2 once, and it was pretty bad. But this time I've got it all set up for you. So, also you notice, if I switch back and forth between the frame, the actual frame, and my vector, my quote-unquote vector using the convert point tool, I wouldn't call it a vector, you'll notice, look at the hair, look at up here behind the horn. That line goes away because the person didn't keep the straight path. They're inconsistent. They use the convert point tool. Okay, maybe not all the time it'll be like that. Maybe you might be a master. I don't know. And then if you look down here, up here in this area, you'll notice all these bumps and ridges. That's because they use the convert point tool. Don't use the convert point tool. That is a simple lesson I'm trying to use here. All you need is the pen tool and maybe sometimes the ellipse tool for the eyes, but we'll do eyes in another lesson here. So, all right, let's get to actual tracing. So I've got this nice vector of candy mane here. I've already done this. I've just taken out some parts so we can do it again. All right, ignore this. Ignore that. But we need that. That's just so we can see, because it was a dark layer. Speaking of dark layers, this is exactly why you use the color guide. Because if you eyedrop tool this, it's going to turn out purple. And we all know Scootaloo is orange. Look at that difference. It's entirely different. This is why I use color guide. Unless you want to keep the night scene kind of look. No, that's just brown. I don't even know. Okay, where were we? Right, okay, so ignore this over here. What you want to do is you want to make a group. Call that group whichever character you're doing. In this case, we'll call it Scuda main, like I did before, because, well, we're vectoring Candy main as Scootaloo. That's why. All right. Now this is your main group. Each character is supposed to have its own group. So, example, if I want to vector Lyra over here, I'd have another group and call it Lyra, and she'd have her own subgroups. But for right now, we just want to take care of Scuda main over here. So you're gonna want to make another group, drag it inside the Scuda main group, and this is the first subgroup you're ever gonna make in the Scuda main group. You're gonna call it Stroke. I always start with strokes first. This is the thick, bold parts you see on the outside, like this yellow and not yellow, orange, and that serves as the outline for the pony. So I do these first because they set like a foundation for the rest of the vector. You know where to put the eyes after that. You know where to put the hair if you have all the strokes set. Strokes are basically the body. All you have to do after that is just put in a fill, which is like coloring in the lines. So, first vector. Here we go. Let me get rid of that. Alright, and it's kind of blurry. A lot of vectoring is guessing. So, what you want to do is you want to click where you first, go back to color guide, grab the body stroke, because that's what you want. You want the body stroke. Click where you think. Actually, don't click where you think. Click where you know is a defined point. Since this is a curve over here, you kind of see that? Maybe not. There's a curve there. There's not going to be an angled point. Now, if there was an angled point, I'd obviously go like that. Do that. Oh, I haven't told you keyboard shortcuts, have I? Instead of using the convert point tool, you're going to want to use the pen tool always. And you're like, so, how orange, if I can't use the convert point tool, how am I supposed to use my Bezier curves? Simple. Very simple indeed. Let's make a basic shape here. Now, for most pony vectors, what you want to do is you want to press Control and then click. Now, this will move both Bezier curves, but it'll keep the anchor point in place unless you use Control, click, and go right on the anchor point. That'll move the anchor point. Most of the times, you just press Control, click, put it over the Bezier curve, and it'll move both Bezier curves. You're wondering, why do I need to move both Bezier curves? That is because in most ponies, everything is smooth. Oh, there we go. Everything is smooth. All the strokes are smooth. All the cutie marks, except for like the angles, are smooth. Unicorn horn is nice and it's nice and round. There's no real tips except for the hair and the eyes and the eyelashes, the tail. Most of the vectoring you're going to be doing for strokes is smooth. So you want to use Control to move both Beziers because this will keep it smooth. Look, it's a nice smooth curve. If I used the convert point tool, that's not smooth. That's a sharp angle. You're like, gee, Orange, how'd you do that? You didn't even right click over here. I'll tell you how. You can use the convert point tool if you want to make a sharp edge like this one right here. You can do that by, I'll just do it right here. We're doing this live. Press Alt, not Control, because Control will move both. Press Alt, click, kind of line it up there, and boom. Oh, no. All right, there we go. Alt, click, See how that moves both separately? It doesn't move them together like Control did. Alt, click, and boom. You've got yourself a nice, sharp edge over here. So those are your hotkeys. Remember, Control, click moves both. Alt, click moves one. Control, click will also move the entire one. Don't use Alt, click because it'll delete the Bezier curves and you'll come up with like a pointy shape. All right, back to our Scootaloo. So since there's a curve here, it's kind of started off a bit off kilter from there, from the end. Don't make a point like this, like that. It's like, oh yeah, and it totally ends there, or right here at the end. No, don't do that. Kind of make it here, then go up. And remember my rule, you want to use as few lines as possible. Press 3 to turn the opacity down, or maybe even 2. That'll bring it down to 20% opacity. Now watch this. This is another cool, neat trick. This Bezier curve is too long, so if I go like this, it'll make this hump. And you say, well, gee, Orange, if you control click, won't both Bezier curves, since they both change if I use the control, won't they both resize? No, watch. Control click. I'm control clicking, I'm not alt clicking. And it only changes this size. But notice how it moves both as an angle. It keeps the line straight between the two. That comes in real handy. Same thing over here. Sometimes if you go like that, you might need to change it back. Just control click. Go back there. Now this is where you make a short, nice sharp angle. So you want to alt click here. Always at the nose point, right where the nose meets the eye. That's where you want to make a sharp angle. And when you're coming back, make all the points adjacent to the points you already made. This will make sure that the stroke size is somewhat consistent. It'll look nice. And you're guaranteed to have a nice vector every time if you do that. If you don't, if you make like this point all the way down here and don't have this one, you can't control that angle. Maybe like that, but it's not going to work. So just do that. All right. Control click, control click, like I said, is a lot of things you'll be doing. Make sure everything looks nice, and go ahead and close the path. Now, it didn't close out like we wanted it to, so what you want to do is control click and elongate these. And fix. Actually, it's a bit pointy, so you want to bring this one back and bring this one forward. That will do. That'll make a nice point. So there you go. You got your first path. I talked you all the way through. What's it look like at 100%? Boom. Boom. You proud? I'm proud of you. All right, let's go on. Moving up the face. We'll save the nose and the mouth for later. Because if you want to change those like I did, I made them smile. You can do that. All right, zoom in, or you can zoom out if you want to. Doesn't matter. Start here, and you're like wondering, Orange, why are you starting there? Because since it's the same color, if I go like this, it looks like one consistent shape. So, if you're using multiple paths that are the same color, they can overlap because they'll look exactly the same. Bring the opacity down here and control click the path to your liking. Using Bezier curves, I've been asked this a lot. How do you get the right shape? Really, there's probably some mathematical equation and some fancy magic or something. I don't know. It's just experimenting. Like I said, you want to do as many vectors. Do as many vectors as possible, and you'll eventually master your Bezier skills. All right, so see how I'm only using 2 points, 1 point up here, or 4 points, 1 point on each side of the outline to make this stroke here. By the way, if you're using Illustrator, do not use the stroke option in the pen tool. That's very unprofessional. I've personally only used Illustrator like twice. Yeah, don't do that. Oops. Again, I keep bumping into things on my desk. All right, there's your second, and you notice, hey, Orange, you're overlapping into the hair. That is because, remember how I said we were making groups? You're going to make other groups later that go into the hair, and they overlap the strokes. But we're not going to go into that in this episode because we're just talking about strokes. Now, I'm going to skip the ear, and I'll tell you why later. So, first things first, go down. And we'll just make this one go all the way down. You know what? Because this is a slant, I'm going to make this one kind of offset. But I'm not going to move this curve using Alt-Click because that's going to make it pointy. Since I keep it straight, here, let me zoom in. Candy Man doesn't have a cutie mark over there. Since I keep this Bezier curve over here straight. Oh, no, that's not good. Oh, one more thing. Do not delete points ever that are in between two lines, because you know what happens? Look at that. The lines screw themselves up. This one stayed the same. This one didn't. It moved both Bezier curves to this side, so when I vector next, it's going to be all screwed up. Like if I try to vector over here. Not going to work. All right, so also if you zoom in real close, I can't show you right now because otherwise it would screw up the lesson. That's not what we want. So keep this straight. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, that's right. I have severe ADHD tonight. If you delete points, Photoshop will automatically try to smooth the line out, and this can work to your benefit sometimes, but most of the time it'll make your vector look crappy, like this. You're like, well, why, Orange? Because if I go like that and I have this path here, but I want it over here, I delete that. And that's not trying. Oh, there we go. Step forward, step forward. Boom. Do you see that? It makes kind of a kink in there. I mean, it's not really noticeable. Never mind. Sometimes if you look at people's vectors on Reddit or something, or DeviantArt, you'll see little kinks in the sides. That's where people deleted points, or they made straight points. You never want to do that. You always want to have Bezier curves on the end of your points. Never just single click. Nope. You always want to click and drag. Click and drag. Click and drag. Now, on some occasions, usually you can just affix this by moving the Bezier curve, but on some occasions, you might want to add a midpoint. Now, the midpoint, and one rule for midpoints is don't change the angle at all, even using Control, even using Alt. Never. It'll make it look bumpy. Well, I mean, you can change the angle if you want, but don't change it radically. Just kind of go like that. And use midpoints to change the width of the middle. And if you want to change the width in between, use the endpoints, Bezier curves. Like so. All right. And I want to control. Since it's overlapping over here with the ear, and they're since they're the same color, like I said before, I can alt click here and just hide this one behind the ear, which I'm about to do. Now I'm bringing these to 100% each time, but this is just to show you. If you want to keep them at 30 the entire time when you're vectoring, go ahead. Just kind of keep them transparent so you can see behind them. Now, you're like, okay, Orange, I'm going to do stroke next for the ear in the stroke group, right? Wrong. Wrong. Never. No. Never. Ever. Make a new subgroup and call it ear. And you're like, why, Orange? Well, it's because this is because when you do the hair, it's going to overwrite the stroke over here and over here. But if I do the ear in there as well, it'll overwrite the ear as well. So I'm going to put the ear on top. Put that hair there. So pretend I had hair. Actually, there, hair. Now see, if I put the ear, if I put the ear under the hair, like pretend it's in with the stroke layers there, see how the hair gets on top of it? That's not what you want. Keep the ear on top of the hair, always. This will make sure that you always have a nice even stroke size there. Not even stroke size, I'm sorry. A nice vector that has organization. Ear, it's very simple. 2 points on each side of the ear. One at the bottom, one at the top. Never make a point up here, ever. Never go like this. There we go. Okay. So, 2 points. Like I said, 2 points each side. Control clicking, always. It looks like I'm gonna have to do episode 2 in like 3 parts here. Oh well. Alright, like I said, 2 points on each side. And this is really slowing down, so just pretend I did it. So eventually you'll come up with something that looks like this. No, you didn't fill it yet. Never mind. Like that. And I put a mouth in there just for fun. You can do that if you want to, too. That's it for part 1 of episode 2. Simple face vectoring. I taught you some lessons in part 3, I think it's going to be. I'll talk about hooves. And I'll be right back. Hang on.